Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Naomi, also known as One Authentic Heart, blogging and vlogging at www.oneauthentic.heart.com. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Today I want to talk about a couple of passages of scripture that have really stood out to me as I've been going through my Bible reading plan. And they're passages of scripture which look at the ideal of what it means to trust and be patient and wait for God, that sort of idealistic, romantic idea of things, and then the reality of what sometimes we can do instead, and the quite harsh reality, to be honest. And I really want to focus on us making the ideal more of a reality, because actually we should be seeking after God with all that we have, and sometimes that's really difficult. And so we want to learn from the mistakes of the people in the Bible, and we want to do better. We want to do something different than those who made mistakes and disobeyed. So the first passage I want to look at is the kind of idealized passage, which is in Psalm 25, and it's verses 4 and 5. And they say, "Make me to know your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And I just feel like those passages, they sound very romantic and they sound lovely, and that is my prayer. A lot of the time, those sort of verses are my prayers. The idea that I want to know more of God, I want to seek after more of God, and I'm sure for those of us that are Christians that are watching this, that you would have the same thing. I want to know you more, Lord. I want to seek you. Teach me your ways. All of my days I long to know you more. And we almost have this romanticized version of our seeking after God. And the reason I say romanticize is not to be cynical, but because of some of the other areas of scripture I've looked at, and my immediate response was to judge. And then I thought to myself, I wonder how many times I've done something similar, maybe not exactly as it looks in the word, but almost a modern day version of what people have made mistakes in doing. And so looking at Exodus 32, some of you know the Old Testament passages that I'm looking at in the Bible reading plan I'm going through at the moment is Exodus. And in Exodus 32, those of you that will be familiar with the story will know that Aaron, Moses' brother, essentially makes a golden calf out of all the jewelry and things that the people give to him, that he melts in a fire and makes into a calf, an idol, essentially for them to worship. And the reason that they do that is because they've got bored of waiting for Moses to come down with the words from God. Moses is at the top of the mountain and he's speaking with God, and they're conversing, and God is giving guidance, plans, purpose to the Israelites. And the Israelites, despite them knowing that that's exactly where Moses is, and that is exactly what is happening, and it's God that he is talking to, they're impatient, they're frustrated, they're annoyed, they're starting to lose trust. And how often do we do the same thing? How often do we get impatient, get frustrated with God, start to lose trust, start to lose hope, start to think, this is really long, I can't be bothered. And we might say, oh, well, no, that sounds a bit harsh. But I think it's more the actions that reflect whether or not that is what we're doing. And that's not to say anything to condemn or to provoke any feelings of guilt, but just for us to really be challenged and for us to really think. Because I was really challenged and was really thinking hard about these things as I read through it, and I just thought I'd share. So a couple of verses from Exodus 32, but obviously you can read the whole passage yourself. It says in I'll read from 1. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, "Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." And immediately in verse 2 it says, "So Aaron said to them, take off the rings of gold, etc., etc." And he starts to do it. And we learn later in the story that actually Aaron blames the people. Aaron says, oh, well, this impatient people, that's why I did it. But obviously Aaron actually had a responsibility as Moses' brother, and also being part of almost the leadership team, as it were. He could have said, no, let's be patient, let's wait, because Moses is up there talking to God, and let's see what God has got to say, because I'm sure it's going to be far better than what a big clunky piece of gold has to say, which is nothing. And so it really got me to thinking. Those verses in Psalm 25, that reflective, beautiful, romantic, make me know your ways, lead me in your truth. You are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all day long. And then us thinking, do we wait all day long? Are we happy to wait for God's timing rather than our timing? Or are we impatient? Do we make for ourselves idols, as it were, like Aaron and the Israelites did in Exodus 32? Do we make the metaphorical golden calf? Do we decide that we are fed up on waiting for God's timing? We're fed up of just trying to seek out what God has to say because we're really in a difficult scenario and God's taking too long? Or do we trust that God will in fact deliver us to wherever it is that he needs us to go, and that it will be for his glory and our good? Or are we impatient? Are we just thinking this is really, really pointless and I can't be bothered? And I suppose this is just an encouragement to, rather than be like the Israelites and Aaron were in Exodus 32, to instead be like the psalmist David in chapter 25 of the Psalms, and just to say, Lord, make me to know your ways, teach me your paths, lead me in your truth and teach me. For you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long. And if we're to pray that prayer honestly, it will come from a place of us trusting and knowing that what God has for us is better than what we have for ourselves. Even if what we have for ourselves is quicker, even if what we have for ourselves is more temporarily satisfactory and pleasurable, what we have for ourselves is not what necessarily what God has for us. And sometimes we need to be patient. Sometimes we need to just wait that little bit longer and trust that God knows what he's doing, and wait for that divine revelation where we know that we are walking in the will and in the steps of God. And that was just encouragement to me, and I hope it's encouraging to you. Let's be challenged to learn God's ways, to wait for him all the day long, as the psalmist says, and just trust and know that he is good, and that our impatient plans will in the end not benefit us if God's not involved. So thanks a lot for watching. God bless and take care.